Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Seen It, and today I'm going to look at Serenity, the all-round awesome sci-fi adventure film, which was a continuation from the all-round awesome sci-fi series, Firefly.
Take my love, take my land.
Ah, Firefly. A series born from the brain of Buffy and Angel creator Joss Whedon, and featured what I like to call a bunch of Han Solos in space, all scraping and clawing their way through the galaxy, trying to stay one step ahead of the evil alliance, as well as keep their ship from falling apart. It's no secret that the series was horribly mistreated by the network. Its time slot kept being changed, episodes were aired out of order, and some not even aired at all. But it didn't stop the series amassing a strong cult following among sci-fi fans, and thanks to the stories being deep and interesting, the universe being vast and expansive, and the characters being excellently written and performed by an extremely talented cast, its cult status is well deserved, with all the characters having a huge fan following, and the standout being Captain Malcolm Reynolds, played by Nathan Fillion.
You want to run this ship? Yes. Well, you can't.
It's the role Fillion was born to play, and one of those instances where actor and character fused together so perfectly you could not imagine anyone else in the role. And Fillion himself clearly loves the character, even going so far as to dress up as him in an episode of Castle.
Space cowboy.
Okay, A, there are no cows in space. B, didn't you wear that like 5 years ago?
So?
So don't you think you should move on?
I like it.
For me, Firefly and Serenity are good examples of what the Star Wars prequels lacked. A strong script, compelling stories, real sets, well-written characters whose relationships and personalities grew over time so they actually meant something, and yeah, if I want to take a low blow, competent writers and directors who knew how to work with actors. After the series was cancelled, a fan campaign was started intending to bring it back, and while the series wasn't resurrected, a film was commissioned in the form of Serenity. I adore this film, and to me it's a hidden classic, featuring great dialogue, great action, character moments, jokes, shocks, and heartache. And probably the most amazing thing about the film is you don't need to have seen the show to get the appropriate emotion out of it. I mean, yeah, sure it helps, but even when you don't have knowledge of the series, Whedon managed to bring first-time viewers into the film and not leave them lost, and really managing this couldn't have been easy. I mean, think about it. He has to introduce 7 characters right from the start who have already been established in the TV show, all have their own working relationships, and needs to help the people who have never seen the show get to know these characters as quickly as possible, but needs to move the film along quickly so that fans of the series who already know the characters won't get bored and just switch off. It's a tough juggling act, and he manages it really well, and it's the opening scene that follows the prologue that I'm going to talk about in this video. The shot begins in space, with the introduction of the Serenity ship, before switching inside where we see Mal, played by Fillion, and Wash, played by Alan Tudyk, exchange some dialogue. Mal then walks through the ship, first encountering Jane, played by Adam Baldwin, Zoe, played by Gina Torres, the adorable Kaylee, played by the adorable Jewel Stitt, Simon, played by Sean Mayer, and finally the camera comes to rest on River, played by Summer Glenn. The whole sequence lasts about 5 minutes, and is designed to be one long shot, although obviously, just like the Halloween opening, there is a cut, but it's so well hidden you wouldn't even notice it. And what I love about this sequence is, it manages to introduce all the characters, so if you are completely new to the series and the show, you get an idea of who they are and their roles on the ship. But if you have seen the show, it's basically a nostalgia tour, giving them a chance to see the ship and characters again, but in a fun and interesting way. Something I am a huge fan of, and I know Whedon is too, as evidenced by the opening of Conviction, which is Angel's Season 5's premiere episode, is the one-take shot. And it's this technique that he uses to introduce or reintroduce all the characters to the audience. Starting off, we see the name of the film, Serenity, which morphs into the ship, so straight away the audience is aware of the ship's name. This is also accompanied by a beautiful piece of music, and I advise anyone listening to this to check it out on YouTube. The ship, while the music plays, is in space, and both show and film follow the rule of no sound in space. So while the camera tracks the ship, it plays this mournful, beautiful melody, but when the ship enters the atmosphere, the music kicks into a higher gear. Switching inside, we see Wash, who at this point in the film isn't named, sitting at the controls, which lets the audience know his role on ship, that being the pilot. Standing over him is Mal, who, on discovering the ship is in danger of crashing, uses the comm.
This is the captain. We have a little problem with our entry sequence, so we may experience some slight turbulence and then explode. Can you see the vector?
It's a joke both fans and newcomers can laugh at, but it also establishes to the audience what Mal's role is on ship. As he leaves, he encounters Jane, loaded with guns, and through the dialogue we're given hints about what's going to happen when they land, but it also establishes Jane's role on ship, that being the muscle.
We crashing again?
Next, Zoe, who from a quick comment shows she's not flustered and is taking all this chaos in her stride. And it also lets the audience know that this kind of occurrence is a fairly regular thing for the crew. And while Zoe, like Wash earlier, isn't named, we do get another small character relationship dropped in for the newcomers.
Talk to your husband.
So through this one shot, we've been able to establish Mal is the captain, Wash is the pilot, Jane is the muscle, and Zoe is the level-headed straight talker who is also married to the pilot. And this is all in one continuous take that, thanks to the sharp delivery and clever dialogue, never feels like exposition, even though it all is. Moving through the ship, still in the one take, Mal encounters Kaylee in the engine room, which signals to the audience that she's the ship engineer, and through a one-off line, we get to see how good she is at her job.
You told me those entry couplings would hold for another week.
That was 6 months ago, Captain.
Again, people who know the show will already be aware of this, but this is a great way of bringing non-fans up to speed with these characters, while giving both sides a laugh at the same time. Turning from Kaylee, Mal comes face to face with Simon, and his role on the ship is a given thanks to how Mal addresses him.
Doctor.
The tension between them is obviously evident, but through their conversation as they walk through ship, we're given details on why they are landing on this planet, which is also hinted at in conversations that Mal has with Jane and Zoe. But it goes further here. Walking through the ship, they talk about their past on ship together, and we learn that the Doctor is objecting to Mal taking River off ship with him, and that River hasn't, as Mal calls it, earned her passage yet, and that the Doctor has, and he's done this by fixing broken bones and injuries, which lets the audience know that Simon is a good doctor, and fills in the newcomers on some history between these two characters. It also confirms Simon's relationship with River, in that she's his sister, and allows the audience to connect what happened in the prologue with what is currently happening now, effectively bringing everyone up to speed. The sequence finally comes to rest on River herself, whom the audience have already been introduced to in the film's prologue, so it seems natural to end the shot on the character newcomers will be able to identify with as the main focus of the movie. She's the first character we're introduced to, followed by Simon, so after meeting a further 5 characters, it's natural to end on her as it brings the sequence full circle. Yet while the sequence ends on River, for me, the actual conclusion of the sequence comes after the ship has landed, where a small exchange occurs between River and Mal.
Understand your part in all this?
Do you?
And I love this little exchange because while they're obviously talking about the heist they're about to pull, this is effectively River handing over the film to Mal. From an audience perspective, especially a new audience, River is the first character we see, so naturally, people are going to focus on her. By following Mal through the ship and then having River effectively hand over the movie to him, the audience are now able to make the switch and follow Mal's character over River, and it's accompanied through just a small exchange of words. The key point of the sequence is, as well as introducing every single character on ship, the film has also given the audience a tour of Serenity itself. Starting off in the cockpit, it moves through the living quarters, the kitchen, the engine room, the medibay, and finally comes to an end in the cargo hold, giving the whole sequence a great deal of life and really making the ship feel like a character in the film. Through a 5-minute sequence, with no visible cut, we've been introduced to 8 characters, the 7 members of the ship, and the ship itself. We've been brought up to speed on the events from the show, we've been given hints about the character histories and their personalities, and this has all been managed in a fun and unique way with some great character interaction and snappy dialogue. If you've watched the series and never seen the film, you owe it to yourself to check it out. And if you haven't ever seen Firefly, first thing you want to do is check that out and then see the film too, because you'd be doing yourself an injustice if you didn't see it at least once. And that's it for the sequence, and that's it for another episode of Seen It. Bye.
Just win.
Girl.